What's up, agency owners? Jason Swenk here with another episode of the Smart Agency Masterclass, a podcast dedicated to you, the agency owner that wants to scale faster, create the freedom that you want, and really hear what's working from other agency owners. And on today's episode, I have an amazing guest who has grown a really amazing agency. It's a value-driven agency, and we're going to talk more about how can you really separate yourself and really live and breathe by the values that you set up for your agency, from the clients you take on to the employees that you actually recruit. So let's go ahead and jump into the episode. Hey, Will, welcome to the show.
Hi, Jason. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so tell us who you are and what do you do?
So I'm Will. I founded a digital agency called WebBox back in 2008. So I now kind of lead the agency. And yeah, we straddle three services. I'll just tell you a little bit about what we actually do. So UX design, bespoke web development, and pay-per-click.
I love it. Now, why the hell did you start an agency? Especially in 2008.
Yeah, I know, right? It was a terrible year to start. So do you know what?
It was actually probably a good year to start. It was just a bad year to have an agency.
Yeah, pretty good year to start. So I was halfway through university at the time. I was studying for a degree, and I just kind of like had a few interactions with other agencies, and I just felt like, yeah, they didn't overly care for some of their clients, and maybe a lot of them had a bit of a cookie cutter model, and it was very much like you were in and out the door. It was a conveyor belt, right? And I just felt like actually it was a industry that really interested me, and I felt like we could do things differently to kind of just raise the game. So yeah, halfway through uni, I thought, right, let's give it a go. I started having some requests from friends and to create a website, or do something like that, and it just spiraled from there, I guess.
What'd you charge for the first website?
I think the first ever website, I can't even believe I'm saying this, £75.
For how many, like an image, like a text on a page? Like, dude, you won the race to the bottom. That's the lowest. I ask that question every once in a while, and I've never heard 75 pounds, even though I know your pounds were, well, up until yesterday, was actually more than the dollar. Yes, we win.
I know, right? It's really embarrassing. This was literally like for a friend. I said, I'll help them out. I'll build them a website of just a few pages. And this was really about me getting some experience, right, in terms of actually building a website, because that was the first ever one that I had done.
So when did you finally figure out friends don't let friends design websites?
Yeah, that's it. So I quickly learned that doing work for friends and family and people that are really close just doesn't work, right? It's a really difficult balance. So thankfully, things kind of spiraled from there. And obviously I got some kind of local businesses starting to ask me, and it moved in a positive direction.
So outside of the friends and family discount, which, man, I'm never going to forget the 75 pounds. That's crazy. And I make fun of you. Like, I thought I was low at 500, but that's great. Especially for, I love it. It just makes good entertainment right now.
Yeah.
When you got outside the friends and family, what did you charge? Like, what was like the first real, like, small business project?
The first was for a small business, like a local shop. And I'm pretty sure that was, I think, 400 or 450 quid.
Getting up there.
That was the first one. Yeah. It's ironic because it's polar opposite now, right? But yeah, how things have changed.
That reminds me of one of my favorite movies is Coming to America. And you remember when, like, Akeem is working at McDowell's and he's talking to the manager. He's like, look, last year I was on garbage duty. This year I'm on fries. Next year I'm going to be on the salad bar or something. And that's when the big bucks start rolling in. Very nice. Well, I'm glad the big bucks are rolling in on for you now. Now, we kind of teased everybody in the very beginning about building a value based agency. Can you explain that a little bit more? And like, how do you guys live and breathe it, and how do you do it?
Yeah. I think when I set out, I wanted to do something different than before. I kind of saw what other agencies were doing, and there was a bit of a feeling that sometimes I'm don't want to blanket every agency with this, but sometimes some agents care too much for their clients and didn't maybe serve it well. So I thought, look, we can do this differently. And one of the ways in which we could do that is actually defining some values that we would live and breathe by. So everything in the agency gets done by these five. And I'm happy to go through each one just to kind of give you a quick overview, if
Go
that's
for it.
cool. So the first we defined is we want to be collaboratively creative, right? What does that mean? It means that we're not kind of coming into a pitch and saying it's our way or the highway, right? We're coming in and saying, look, you know your sector really well. We know UX and design through and through. Let's bring those two together. Let's be collaborative and actually make sure that the end product is really creative. So that was the first that we said, look, we want to do this with our competing with them. The second is about being brutally transparent. We appreciate that actually, as an agency, we sometimes know information that could make or break a client's website or kind of online presence. And actually, sometimes we might withhold information from a client because we think it might, not be good for them. And actually, at WebBox, we just wanted to do things completely different and say, actually, we're going to be brutally transparent. And that sometimes means having quite difficult conversations with clients to say, look, you thought this, but actually what you really need is this. But it also goes through to our accounts. So you won't believe this, Jason. Like, we give timesheets out to clients to say this is how your time has been spent, which obviously then fuels the invoice. So everything is transparent, so that they know what they're getting. The third, this is testing me now. The third is being seriously skilled. When we set out, we don't want people in the team who aren't seriously skilled, right? If you're not really good at what you do in your specialist area, then it's not going to be a place for you. And I just wanted to be really clear on that in our values, but also about kind of upskilling the team. So where you are in the team already, we want to set time for you to upskill yourself and to train and to get better at your particular niche. The fourth is being proactively ambitious. We want to be ambitious as an agency and keep growing, but we want to be proactively ambitious for our clients too, right? We want them to grow, because if they grow, then obviously they're going to need us more. It just makes sense. And then the last one is being relentlessly responsive. I saw so many times where people were contacting their agency and it was like a week for them to respond, or things like that, and you just think, like, what's going on? So one of the things that I kind of defined really early on in the agency's life is we need to get back to clients quickly. We need to be part of their team and we need to be held accountable. So I benchmark that now with our support team, so that they are tasked to respond to clients' tickets within 1 hour, within working hours. And I'm really pleased to say that throughout of all of 2021, the average response time was 38 minutes. And that's a real commitment to actually saying, look, if we're going to partner with our clients, then we're going to be there whenever they need us.
I love that
So
you
yeah,
measure
they're
it.
the five values.
Yeah, I love that you
Yeah.
measure it because, we were talking in the pre-show, there's lots of agencies that say, oh, our values are the best and all this kind of stuff. But it's kind of a lot, most of the time, bullshit. And I like how you guys measure it and you live by it and you actually know it, because I know a lot of
Yeah.
agencies, will work with certain people and they'll build their values one time as an exercise and then they couldn't even recite them. Like, they don't even know one of them. And I'm like,
Yeah.
it mind blown when that happens.
I've seen that too, right? So many people say, "Oh, we're values led, or we're kind of really great, or we're transparent, or whatever," but it actually doesn't get lived out. And I kind of feel like at that point, you've just got values maybe plastered on your meeting room wall, for the sake of it, right? It's just like you're just ticking a box. But for us, I was like, look, if we're going to define these values, we are going to literally live and breathe them. And I've actually said to the team, I said, look, if you feel like we're doing something which is contrary to these values, you need to call it out. You need to say, look, that's not our values and that's not how we do things. So yeah, that's how we've done it.
Well, and you probably, the clients probably love this too, because you're probably using this to educate the client on this is what we're going to be doing and this is how we measure, and they're comparing you, to the not subpar sees in the past, and they'll go with, that guy charging 75 pounds. I had to throw that in.
Yeah,
So
you'll never let that one go.
I'll never let that one go. I'll be like how someone went from selling their first project at 75 pounds. It's crazy.
Yeah.
And switching focus a little bit. So you have an agency that almost mirrored imaged ours, from doing highly custom web development, UX design, that kind of stuff. And we're highly, project engagements, right? Rather than retainers. Like literally 8% of our revenue was on projects. And so I'm assuming you have a good source of building the pipeline.
Yeah, so our pipeline has got to be strong because obviously a lot of our work is project based. But we did identify this a few years ago and we kind of deemed it quite a risk for the agency. So probably, let me think, maybe like 6 years ago, we kind of introduced more retainers for the kind of website clients, but also we introduced pay-per-click management as which obviously is then a monthly revenue stream. And since doing that, we've been able to kind of balance our income so that it's 60% project-based and 40% recurring revenue. And that has really helped us to grow in terms of growing our team, but given us just a really solid base. So like if there's agency owners listening who are like 100% project based, I would just really encourage you to kind of look at that, because if you haven't got a really strong pipeline all of the time, then it can be a real risk.
What's a big challenge that you've overcome in the past year or so that you're really proud of?
Do you know what? I think one business one and one personal one, if I may. So it's the business one is like we have we've struggled with recruitment. I think a lot of agencies can probably empathise with that at the moment. And one thing that we've put in place, and we're still putting in place now, but it's pretty much there, is actually an always-on recruitment drive. So we've basically kind of built out a recruitment funnel whereby we're always recruiting and we're kind of looking at that. And I think that's massively helped us to move forward, because actually we're growing at a rate which is faster than we can find people. So that's been a real bottleneck, and that's been a massive step forward for us in the last year. In terms of a personal goal, I'm so pleased that I've been able to kind of carve out some time each day in my diary to kind of work on the agency rather than in it. And this is the age-old problem, right? Agency owners working too much in the day-to-day. So what I've kind of set up for myself is literally kind of an hour and a half session in the morning. First thing, that's when I'm most productive. And I kind of just turn everything off. I've got no meetings, no interruptions. I sit in one of our separate meeting rooms in the office and I just kind of work on the business and look at the more strategic things. And I'm just really kind of pleased from a personal perspective that I've kind of started that, because I've already seen the fruits of it. And I'm just looking forward to taking that hour and a half to 2.5 hours and 3.5 hours and 4.5 hours as things progress.
That's fantastic. In the mastermind, we're always talking about, because a lot of agency owners have the wrong goals in place, and they have a goal for top line revenue, or they want to sell for $100 million. I'm like, well, why? Like, what allow you to do? Oh, that allows me to take Fridays off. I'm like, hey, dummy, you can take a Friday off. You could take every Friday off if you want. It's all about figuring out what are the rules that you're going to create. And like, for example, like your rule is, hey, I'm going to do it in the morning. I'm going to block this time off. Right. And And I think if people start thinking about where is all your guys' time suck going, we were talking a couple of weeks ago. I told all the agency owners, I said, look at the past 2 weeks of your calendar, take a screenshot of it and color code it: red, yellow, and green. Red sucks the life out of you. Yellow is like, it's okay. Green gives me energy. And obviously you want to do more green, I presume, unless you guys like whipping the shit out of each other, which I don't think. And then figure out what are the rules that you need to do to create them. And it just allows you to create more freedom. And that's the goal of this podcast. This is the goal of the mastermind. This is the goal of everything that we do, is giving you guys the freedom to pick and choose to do the things you want to do. So I love that. That's your personal goal, and that's great. And I also like the always be recruiting. We had the same thing, and we'd have a pipeline, and that was another thing we were chatting about. And I'm always beating my members up. I'm like, dude, always have a we're hiring hanging from your logo.
Yeah. That's it. Go back to the personal goal. Someone said to me, just do one thing this week, next week easier. And if you just keep doing that every week, obviously you'll just chip away at the big things. And it really kind of struck a chord with me that there were so many things that we were doing which were really repetitive, but just taking so much time. So I've just started to kind of list those things out. And I was like, right, okay, so this week I'm going to sort X, Y, and Z so that next week it'll just be a little bit easier. And that's the path we're on.
That's what I've been doing for years, is every month getting rid of one thing. And I can tell you, I only have 8 to 10 hours worth of meetings every week. That's it. And it's the most freeing thing. Sometimes at first it gets really boring. You realize, well, I'm always working in my head, right? Because I love what I do. But, I can go do this. Or we were chatting in our group last week, and some agency owners actually felt guilty for taking time off. Well, why do you feel guilty? Well, my guys are working all the time. I need to be the hardest worker. I said, no, you don't. I said, you just need, and I loved it that Darby, our agency scale specialist, stepped up and talked. He goes, look, Jason has 8 to 10 hours worth of meetings, but I can reach him 24/7. He's always accessible to me. And that's the biggest thing.
Yeah, so true. So back in the early days, I felt like I had to be the person that opens up the office, first in and then obviously last out. And I vividly remember those times. I would start at 7 a.m., finish at 7 p.m., go home and eat, and then probably do a bit more work, in the evening, right? I've been there, I've done that, and it leads to one thing and one thing only, right? It's burnout, right? So, a lot of things have changed since then. Admittedly, there's a bigger team and I've been able to delegate more. And also, let's not beat around the bush, I've had 2 kids as well, and that changes your focus completely, right?
Completely.
But after that, you kind of think, actually, I need a better work-life balance. And, now I'm really jealous of your kind of 8 to 10 hours, but I'm probably working, maybe 45, 50-hour weeks, which at the minute I'm comfortable with. I'm happy with that because we're still growing. And ultimately, if anything, I'm looking to reduce that, not increase it. So that's the kind of goal over the next few years, really.
Awesome. Well, Will, this has been amazing. Is there anything I didn't ask you that you think would benefit the audience?
Do you know what? There's one thing. I'm going to give your audience with something which is just a little bit different, which is about kind of the benefits that you can give to your team. So I mentioned earlier about kind of the struggles with recruitment. So one of the things that we did is looked at our benefits, and we introduced this really cool idea of having a gumball machine, like a proper retro gumball machine in the office. And I got all the team to write on a bit of paper within a plastic in this machine what they would like as a gift, up to 150 quid. And every time we do something, so we put a website live or we launch a PPC campaign or something, like that, someone puts the 20p in the machine and we click it and someone gets a gift. So I'd leave you with that thought of rewarding your team for the small wins, because those things make a real difference.
That's a great idea, and I like it. Builds momentum and excitement. So
Yeah.
that's really clever. I haven't heard of that, so that's awesome. I was like, gumball, like you just gonna give people gum? Like, who cares?
I wish.
Awesome. Well, cool. What's the agency website? People can go and check you guys out.
Yeah, so literally just www.webbox.digital.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Will, for coming on the show. And if you guys enjoyed this episode and you want to be around amazing agency owners where we can help you grow faster, create that freedom where you can pick and choose and work as much or as little as you want, put the right team members together so you're not doing all the shit that you don't like anymore. If you do want to be around amazing people that like to have a lot of fun, go to digitalagencyelite.com. And maybe we'll have a conversation. Maybe it's the thing you could be looking for. And because everyone knows that you guys can always do better. So make sure you go to digitalagencyelite.com. And until next time, have a swank day.